Imagine living 15,000 feet above sea level, no supermarket, no fridge, no coffee, and still waking each day with calm strength. How do Tibetan monks, surrounded by thin air and snow, stay healthy and focused for life? Their secret isn't hidden in supplements or strict diets. It's found in the foods they've prepared for centuries, simple, local, and made to serve both body and mind. Tonight at Western Monk, we explore 20 ancient Tibetan foods that keep monks strong for life. From grains that thrive in frozen soil to herbs that calm the mind, these meals are more than nutrition, they're survival tools shaped by mountain life. And it all begins before sunrise, in a quiet kitchen where the air smells faintly of roasted barley and smoke. Before dawn breaks over the Himalayas, the monastery kitchen flickers with light. A young monk stirs a pot over a wood stove. The smell of roasted grain fills the air, warm, earthy, steady. No one's rushing, yet everything moves with quiet rhythm. This is how every day begins, with tsampa, the food that has sustained monks and herders for generations. Tsampa is simple. Roasted barley ground into fine flour. That's it. Yet within that simplicity lies the secret of survival at high altitude. Barley grows where almost nothing else will. In rocky soil, thin air, and freezing wind. It's rich in complex carbohydrates, protein, and minerals, providing slow-lasting energy that doesn't spike or fade. To prepare it, monks pour a bit of hot water or tea over the flour, then knead it by hand into a soft dough. No utensils, no plates, just palms and patience. The result is dense, slightly nutty, and incredibly satisfying. It's food that respects time and effort. In many monasteries, tsampa isn't only breakfast, it's a foundation of life. It can be eaten plain, mixed with dried cheese or herbs, or shaped into small balls to carry during long treks. Monks say that one bowl can keep them working or meditating for hours. That's not exaggeration, it's metabolic wisdom refined by centuries of experience. Some kitchens lightly roast the flour again before serving, giving it a smoky aroma that warms the body from within. Others mix it with a spoonful of yogurt for a tangy taste and added protein. There are no recipes, just adaptation, a living cuisine shaped by altitude and necessity. But tsampa also carries spiritual meaning. In Tibetan culture, it represents stability and effort, the steady energy that supports both body and prayer. Monks often say tsampa is the food of patience because it teaches the same lesson that meditation does. Progress comes from consistency, not excitement. It's a sharp contrast to modern breakfast culture. Energy bars, instant oats, or the latest smoothie trend. We chase novelty. Monks master repetition. While our food changes daily, theirs hardly does, and yet their energy remains unwavering. A visiting traveler once asked a monk if he ever got tired of eating barley every day. The monk smiled and replied, "Only the tongue gets bored. The body never does." There's humor in that line, but also truth. The body doesn't need entertainment, it needs nourishment that lasts. Tsampa delivers exactly that. It's low in fat, high in fiber, and full of slow energy, perfect for a life of work, meditation, and cold mountain air. Modern nutritionists would call it a functional food. Monks simply call it breakfast. When we look at tsampa, we see poverty of choice. When they look at it, they see freedom from confusion. Every grain represents the idea that less can indeed give more. And as the morning light spreads across the monastery walls, the monks finish their meal in silence. No coffee, no rush, just calm readiness for the day ahead. But when the day grows colder and food scarce, their strength depends not just on grains but on how they preserve what nature gives. That's where the art of fermentation, the next secret in their diet, begins to reveal its quiet power. By midday, the mountain sun is bright but deceptive. It looks warm, yet the wind still bites. In the high plateaus of Tibet, fresh food doesn't last long, and in winter, sometimes there isn't any at all. So monks learned an ancient art, preserving life through fermentation and fire. In stone jars tucked behind the monastery kitchen, you'll often find cabbage, radish, or wild mustard leaves submerged in salty brine. Over time, they transform into something sour, tangy, and alive. This is Tibetan sog, a form of fermented vegetable not unlike Korean kimchi or sauerkraut. These fermented foods are more than a side dish, they're a survival strategy. The process creates natural probiotics that protect the gut, strengthen immunity, and balance digestion in thin mountain air. Modern science now agrees. A healthy gut influences everything from mental focus to immunity. Monks discovered that centuries ago without a microscope, only through observation and wisdom. Some monasteries also ferment turnips or carrots in yak milk whey, giving them a sharp, creamy flavor. Others dry the vegetables first, then soak them in salty water when needed, a method that uses no energy, no machines, and no waste. It's preservation by patience. When the herd comes back from the valley, milk is precious. Every drop counts. Yak milk, richer than cow's milk, becomes curd, butter, or yogurt depending on the season. The thick yogurt called shomya is mildly sour and high in protein and healthy fat. For monks, it's not a dessert, it's medicine. They often eat it after heavy physical work or long chanting sessions to rebuild energy. The probiotics from fermented milk balance the high-altitude diet of grains and tea. Today, many people spend money on bottled probiotics or protein shakes. Monks get both from one bowl of yogurt made with care and time. There's a quiet humor in that, how modern life complicates what ancient life already perfected. Although many monks are vegetarian today, some monasteries in remote, freezing regions traditionally dried small amounts of yak or sheep meat for survival. The meat was hung above the hearth to cure slowly, absorbing smoke and salt. This made it last for months without spoiling, and when boiled into soup, it restored warmth to the body, a literal form of energy storage in the harsh winter. The principle behind all these methods is the same. Use nature's rhythm instead of fighting it. When food is scarce, you store it. When it's plentiful, you prepare for the months ahead. Modern refrigerators hum all day long, but monks learn to let the wind, sun, and time do the work. Visitors often describe these foods as strong, sour, salty, smoky. Monks simply smile. They know flavor is less about taste and more about memory. Each jar of fermented cabbage, each pot of curd, carries the story of endurance. Every bite is a reminder. Health isn't something you buy, it's something you build, slowly, one season at a time. And just when you think this mountain diet is all grains and pickles, the monks bring out something unexpected: foods that blur the line between medicine and meal, turning every bite into an act of healing. As the afternoon sun dips behind the peaks, the monastery takes on a hush. Chanting fades, prayer flags flutter, and a faint herbal scent drifts from the kitchen. This is when the monks prepare their tonics, meals that heal as they nourish. In Tibetan culture, the line between food and medicine has never been sharp. What we call superfoods, monks have treated as daily ingredients for centuries. Their mountain lifestyle demanded it. Thin air, low oxygen, freezing nights, and yet they stayed strong, clear-minded, and adaptable. Let's uncover some of these quiet healers. In the dry valleys of Tibet and Qinghai, wild goji berries called kumani in some regions are dried in the sun and used in teas or soups. These tiny red fruits contain high levels of antioxidants, vitamins A and C, and compounds that protect the eyes and liver. Monks often add a handful of goji to their butter tea or barley porridge for gentle sweetness and endurance. They say it helps the eyes see through fatigue, an apt image for long hours of reading ancient texts by dim light. Today, goji berries are sold as luxury superfoods in wellness stores worldwide. Tibetan monks would likely smile at that. For them, it was never a trend, just common sense. Food should support the work of the soul, not distract from it. Next comes Rhodiola crenulata, a hardy alpine root that clings to rocks above 4,000 meters. It's known in traditional Tibetan medicine as the mountain's breath. Monks brew it into tea or chew dried slices before climbing or meditating at high altitude. Rhodiola helps the body use oxygen more efficiently and reduces fatigue. Science now confirms what monks have practiced for generations. In modern terms, it's an adaptogen, a natural balancer that helps your body adjust to stress. There's an old saying in some monasteries, when the air grows thin, chew the mountain. That mountain is rhodiola, the herb that teaches endurance without aggression. Then there's cordyceps, perhaps the most famous of all Tibetan ingredients. It's a parasitic fungus that grows on caterpillars in the high meadows, known locally as yartsa gunbu, literally summer grass, winter worm. It sounds odd, but its effects are remarkable, boosting energy, lung function, and recovery. For centuries, monks and herders collected it sparingly, often keeping it for elders or for ritual occasions. They believed it strengthened life force, what they call arlung, the vital wind that sustains health and clarity. Modern athletes now use cordyceps extracts for stamina and oxygen efficiency. What monks discovered through prayer and patience, sports science now bottles. Still, in monasteries, it's used humbly, boiled with barley or tea, not sold by the gram. The value lies not in rarity, but in balance. Bright orange and sharp as lemon, sea buckthorn berries grow wild along riverbanks. Monks press them into juice or dry them for winter. They're loaded with vitamin C, up to 10 times more than oranges, and protect the skin from the biting mountain wind. In the old days, when doctors were far away, sea buckthorn tea was the first thing given to anyone sick, tired, or frostbitten. Its taste is both sour and life-giving, a bit like the Tibetan climate itself. If you walked into a monastery kitchen today, you'd see what looks like a collection of rustic wellness shots, herbs drying on strings, jars of golden tea, bowls of berries. Except no one calls it detox, cleanse, or biohacking. It's just lunch. A senior monk once laughed when asked if he knew cordyceps was now sold online for hundreds of dollars. If people paid that much attention to breathing, he said, they wouldn't need the fungus. The humor hides deep wisdom, that true vitality isn't something we buy. It's how we live, breathe, and choose what to eat. As evening falls, the monks gather again. A pot of soup simmers quietly, barley, herbs, and roots blending into one humble lesson. Food is medicine when eaten with awareness. But their wisdom doesn't end with ingredients. It continues in how they eat and why they stop before they're full. Evening in the monastery arrives with a steady rhythm, the bell rings, sandals shuffle on stone, and bowls are set quietly in a line. There's no buffet, no variety to debate over, and certainly no "what do I feel like eating tonight?" Every meal is both nourishment and training. A monk's dinner might be a simple bowl of noodle soup, a few momos filled with vegetables or barley, and hot tea. Yet that modest meal carries centuries of refinement. Every portion, every flavor is chosen not for excitement, but for balance. Too much spice is avoided because it distracts the senses. Too much food dulls the mind. Eating, in their view, isn't about reward, it's about readiness. In Tibetan monasteries, food follows the principle of moderation called Nyingje, which translates roughly as gentle care. You take what you need and nothing more, not out of restriction but respect. A monk once told a visiting student, "Full stomach, sleepy mind, half stomach, steady heart." That's the essence of their approach. They eat enough to sustain meditation and work, but never to the point of heaviness. The dishes themselves are practical and adapted to altitude. Barley noodles, vegetable broths with turnips and herbs, and small dumplings called momos, steamed, never fried. When meat is used, it's usually yak, consumed sparingly and often during the harshest winter months. Every meal is cooked fresh from stored grains or dried produce, made by the community for the community. There's no private kitchen, no personal diet. Food is shared, and that act alone is considered part of spiritual discipline. Compared to modern meals, oversized, customized, and distracted, the monk's dinner might look minimal, yet its simplicity holds a quiet intelligence. By removing excess choice, they remove mental noise. A Western visitor once joked, "But don't you get bored eating the same thing?" The monk smiled and replied, "We don't eat for surprise, we eat for peace." This mindset is a mirror to modern eating habits. In cities, we talk about mindful eating while scrolling through phones during lunch. We diet, count calories, and worry over macros. But monks achieve balance naturally through structure. They don't chase balance, they design it. Food comes at fixed times in fixed amounts, so energy and attention stay stable. It's not about deprivation, it's about consistency. Psychologists today might describe this as decision fatigue prevention. The less time you spend choosing what to eat, the more focus you have for meaningful work. Monks understood this centuries ago. They knew discipline in eating was discipline in thinking. When you quiet the appetite, the mind follows. And there's another subtler reason behind their restraint: gratitude. Every grain of barley, every drop of butter represents effort from herders, farmers, and nature itself. To overeat would be to ignore that chain of giving. So before eating, monks often recite short verses of thanks, not as ritual but as reminder. Food is the bridge between earth and effort. When the meal ends, no dessert follows. Instead, monks rinse their bowls, stack them neatly, and continue with evening chants. No one leaves the hall feeling heavy or sluggish. The body is light and the mind alert. That's the quiet magic of balance without excess. Most of us, surrounded by abundance, think satisfaction comes from more. But Tibetan wisdom teaches that strength comes from enough. Their meals are proof that restraint can be freedom, and that the lightness we crave doesn't come from cutting calories, but from cutting clutter. As night deepens and prayer drums echo across the valley, a pot of tea still steams softly on the hearth. Tomorrow's grains are already roasting for another day of quiet strength. And in that rhythm of repetition lies the secret modern diets miss. Stability is the real luxury. What remains to explore now is how these ancient habits can guide our daily tables. How to eat not for comfort or convenience, but for clarity and calm energy, just as the monks have done for centuries. When we picture strength, We often think of muscle, supplements, or motivation. But in the Tibetan highlands, strength means something quieter. It's the steady pulse of a life lived in rhythm, a body that serves the mind, and a mind that knows when enough is enough. Monks have no special diet plans, yet their food choices reveal a deep system of balance. Theirs is a diet of purpose, not performance. If you walk through a monastery kitchen today, you'll find the same foods that sustained their ancestors centuries ago. A sack of barley near the door, a jar of fermented vegetables on the shelf, butter tea frothing over the stove. No packaging, no brand names, no promises of detox or instant results. What looks ancient is in truth timeless, a slow conversation between humans and their environment. That's what modern eating has lost. Our diets chase stimulation, the next flavor, the next treat, the next novelty. But monks eat to stay steady. Their food doesn't excite the palate so much as it anchors the spirit. When life is stripped of clutter, taste becomes sharper, gratitude deeper. Every sip of butter tea tastes earned. Every grain of tsampa reminds them of effort and interdependence. In a modern kitchen, this wisdom can still apply. You don't need a yak or a mountain monastery to eat like a monk. The lesson isn't in the ingredients, it's in the intention. Choosing whole grains over processed ones, eating seasonally, savoring slowly, stopping before you're full. These small habits recreate the same mental clarity monks cultivate through ritual. It's not about austerity, it's about awareness. There's also something profoundly practical in how monks link food with focus. Each meal supports their mental work, chanting, study, and meditation, without pulling energy toward indulgence. That's why their food is calm, no spikes, no crashes, no chaos. The world around them may be harsh, but inside they create stillness through routine. Modern nutrition now calls this metabolic balance. Monks just call it living wisely. A monk once said, "If the stomach is at peace, the heart will follow." It's not a metaphor. The gut and brain communicate constantly, and science now proves that healthy digestion affects mood, attention, even compassion. When monks eat fermented vegetables or barley, they're not just feeding the body, they're cultivating clarity. It's mindfulness at the biological level. Perhaps the greatest contrast lies not in the ingredients but in the relationship. We eat to fill space. They eat to support purpose. We seek comfort from food. They seek clarity through it. And in doing so, they've built endurance that lasts a lifetime. Not the strength of youth or muscle, but the kind that endures winter after winter without complaint. Imagine if our meals carried that same intention. Breakfast not as a rush, but as alignment. Lunch not as escape, but as pause. Dinner not as indulgence, but as gratitude. This is how monks transform eating into meditation, a ritual of steadiness in a world that craves speed. As the fire dies down in the monastery, the bowls are washed, the tea cools, and silence returns. Yet the strength remains, built not from supplements or secrets, but from patience, simplicity, and respect for every grain. That's the real lesson from the mountains. When you eat with purpose, life itself feels lighter. The monks don't chase longevity, they build it. One mindful bite, one quiet cup of tea, one simple meal at a time. And maybe that's the kind of strength we all need now. Not more food, but more meaning in the food we already have.